Relationships aren't easy. They're not meant to be. Now, two people who have grown up in very different backgrounds come together to navigate and share a life together. Things are not going to be easy, right? There are bound to be differences. But if these differences are not dealt with correctly and at the right time, what will happen is the same relationship, which is meant to help you grow, is meant to nurture you, that will turn toxic and end up making you feel miserable. The feeling is like that of groping in the dark. You don't know whether you want to stay or make things better or leave. It is in fact a very bad place to be. So in this video, I will share a framework by which you can understand your own relationship, understand where the issues are emanating in your relationship, and work on yourself and your partner and make things better. Now, this video is all about understanding your own attachment style and your partner's as well. And by understanding your attachment style, find out ways by which you can resolve your own conflict. Now, about the attachment theory and attachment styles, there is this book called Attached, which I have read, and this book is very interesting in the sense that it gives you a lot of very simple case studies so you can apply it in your life and understand where the problem areas are. And this book is also for people who are generally curious about why relationships between certain people seem to work so magically well and why some don't. It is also for people who want to find love, and it's also for people who are in relationships, are not able to navigate or feeling stuck. So this book is for everyone. You can have a look at the book, read through it, and then get back to me in the comment section later. And yes, guys, I'm not talking about abusive relationships here. I would never advocate someone to stay on in a physically, mentally, emotionally, verbally abusive relationship with anyone. In those cases, the abuse has to stop. Something has to change, or else you have to gather the resources and leave. There is no other way. So let's get going. In this world where dependency and reliance is looked down upon, which gives so much of emphasis for independence and self-sufficiency, why do we need relationships, right? The new age social media gives a lot of emphasis on self-reliance and kind of a boss dependency. But for our own emotional well-being, we look out for connections. We all crave love and affection, though our social media tells us otherwise. So let me put it all out there first. There's nothing wrong with you if you want to be loved and cared for, if you want intimacy and support, if you're willing to share your vulnerable self, if you want to have a secure relationship with someone so as to grow and reach out to the world outside. There is nothing wrong with that at all. We are all humans, and it is in our primitive genes to look out for companionship and support in order to feel safe and grow. And that is absolutely okay. If you are in a relationship or you're looking out for somebody, according to this book, you and your partner's attachment style will determine what kind of a relationship you will have. You must be wondering, how is that possible? We are all so different. How can we all be categorized into specific attachment styles? Well, that is what is interesting about this concept. So this book, Attached, is based on the attachment theory in psychology, which talks about how we as adults are attached to our intimate partners. Now, there are a lot of detractors for the attachment theory, but even to this day, there are a lot of therapists who use attachment theory as a base for their practice. There was, in fact, a lot of research conducted, a lot of data examined, and this is what the researchers discovered. We all fall primarily into three types of attachment styles. There is a fourth one, but that is rarer. If you understand about all these four attachment styles, I think it could be an eye-opener for many of us. The attachment styles are anxious, avoidant, secure, and the fourth one, which is the rare one, is called the fearful avoidant or the disorganized. Aren't you curious to know which attachment style you and your partner fall into? Now, all these attachment styles differ in the way they see love. They differ in the way they approach and resolve conflict. They differ in the way they deal with intimacy. And they also differ in the way they communicate and express their needs and expectations. So how and when did we develop our attachment style? The researchers who were working on the attachment theory, they had conducted a very interesting experiment, and that experiment was called the strange situation. A child was left alone in a room with her mother, and later his or her mother, and later on the mother left the room, and depending on how the child reacted when the mother came back to the room, the child's attachment style was classified. It's a very, very interesting experiment. Okay, I've just touched upon it. It's just a basic glimpse into it. You must read up more about this experiment to understand it. So briefly, the conclusion was the child who was happy to see the mother was secure. The child who kept on crying when the mother returned was anxious. The child who just completely ignored her mother was avoidant, and the child who gave out mixed signals was fearful, avoidant, or disorganized. Now you must be wondering why I'm comparing these 1 or 2-year-old children with all of us adults. That is what the conclusion was of this experiment, that today the attachment style that we have as adults with our intimate partners is a result of the childhood attachment style. Interesting, isn't it? But later on, they conducted a lot of research, and it was understood that it could be a combination of factors. It could be your genetics, it could be the relationship you had early on, it could also be the situation around you. There could be a lot of reasons for you to develop that attachment style. For instance, you would have had a very secure, happy childhood, but your early relationship, maybe in your first or your second, you might have had to face abuse or infidelity, and that would have shaped your attachment style today. So it's a combination of factors. Now, which attachment style are you? I will describe all these attachment styles and I'll give you a lot of examples so you kind of understand which one you fit into. Anxious attachment style. When you're an anxiously attached person, you're anxious all the time about the relationship. Well, you could be the most successful person on the planet, but you could still spend a lot of time thinking about the person. If the person has not responded the way you want him or her to respond, then you end up playing that situation over and over in your head, wondering if there was anything you could have done to maybe improve the situation or avoid it or dealt with differently, etc. It never ends. You're constantly thinking about the person. You also want a lot of hug, you want a lot of physical intimacy, you want reassurances, and if the person does not give you that, then that kind of completely throws you off balance. It perturbs you deeply. You also are very easy with communicating your needs, your expectations, your desires, how you feel, but you also expect the same from the other person. So for instance, a boy you're dating does not call you as promised. You start re-evaluating the entire relationship. You start wondering if the boy likes you at all. You start wondering if he's got another girlfriend. You wonder if you have probably sent out the wrong signals. Now, in reality, that person could have been just busy with something, would have been preoccupied with something else, and would not have been able to make that call back. But you kind of imagine all kinds of situations around it. Now, if the person makes a mistake, you do feel miserable and angry, and you are all worked up. But later on, over a period of time, when the anger fizzles off, you want to get back with the person again, and you start thinking about all the positives about this person. And the moment the partner takes a step, you just jump back right in, and then it's all lovey-dovey till the cycle repeats itself again. You find it very difficult to leave the relationship and let go of the relationship. Now, the problem with an anxiously attached person is it's very difficult for the person to break off in that relationship. They might be miserable, but they find it very difficult to move away from the relationship. In your childhood, you might have been probably raised by caregivers who fluctuated between being emotionally available and then being distant. And as a result, you were always confused about the relationships, and that reflects in your future relationships as well. Is that person you? Now you got to be honest with yourself, okay? Think about it long, think about all the situations in your past, think about your childhood, and come to a conclusion. Now we'll move on to the second category. Avoidant attachment style. So the avoidants are the cool cats. They're basically people who will socialize well. They will be very friendly with people, but they will not let people come really, really close to them. Like, they always keep people away at an arm's length. If you're going to a party, you are the kind who gets desired by the anxious, because mostly you are aloof, you're independent, you're self-sufficient, you come across as very strong and steady. But it's a case of opposites attract. So it's an anxious and an avoidant get attracted to each other like magnets. Now, when it comes to wooing somebody, you are the kind who probably feel interested in someone. You will go all out to woo the person, but when the person gets emotionally dependent on you and expects more from you, you will just want to run away. You value your self-sufficiency and your independence over everything else. Any type of interference or an invasion into your private space or your time or an attention that is undesirable will be seen as control, and you will immediately react. You will basically keep love at arm's length. You know what I mean. If your partner wants to make a weekend plan with you and you want to do something and wants to do something very personal, private or intimate, you would probably try to create space by just maybe taking off with your friends or going and playing golf instead. And therefore you end up hearing a lot of things like, you don't care for me enough, or you don't give me enough time or attention, or you don't value me enough, or you would hear stuff like you're too aloof, too detached and too impersonal. These are the stuff you constantly hear. You find it easy to break away from people or break off, and you are constantly on the lookout for some perfect partner who actually doesn't exist. The worst part is that you find it very difficult to communicate how you feel or to express how you feel, express it in words and even through deeds or actions. You find it very difficult to be physically intimate in the sense that, giving a hug or holding hands or all those things are very, very difficult for you. The basic stuff is quite difficult for you, in fact. You would have been probably raised by a caregiver who kind of emotionally shut you down. Maybe you went to them expressing your emotional needs or wanting something from them, but instead of soothing you down and paying attention to you, they kind of shut you down and told you to be self-sufficient and take care of your emotional needs by yourself. So you kind of grew up believing that being self-sufficient and independent is the most important thing in the world. Now let's talk about the secure attachment style. When you are a securely attached person, you basically are very warm and loving without finding the need to control or to persuade or interfere. You give the person ample space, you also keep the space, but yet you are comfortable with physical intimacy and closeness. You're able to effectively communicate your needs. You're able to talk about your issues. You're able to express your feelings, and you're also able to give those hugs and those reassurance which all of us really need. You're also able to resolve conflicts better because you're able to listen to the person carefully and think through the issues through the person's point of view. And you don't really see that as a threat to your relationship. In fact, you see each issue independently and you work through it. You're in an ideal situation if you have another secure by your side. But even if it's an anxious or an avoidant, you can still manage the situation or this relationship with some effort. So that's the best part of being with you. A very small population of us would be probably disorganized or fearful avoidance. These are people who would have faced a lot of trauma or abuse in their childhood. They would have been raised by parents who were probably controlling, or they would have assaulted them or even abused them. And as a result, the child who turns to the primary caregiver for love, affection and security also ends up fearing them because they are physically or emotionally and even sexually unsafe from them. So in these cases, most of these kids, they end up self-sabotaging their relationship. In fact, they want love and affection, they crave it, but they also fear that they will be rejected eventually. So they take steps or kind of make that happen for them. This is a very difficult attachment style to deal with and to live with also. But yes, there are very few people who fall in this category. When a secure person is with an anxious or an avoidant, there is still hope. But when an anxious and an avoidant come together, that's when all hell will break loose. So if you're an anxious and your partner is an avoidant, or vice versa, you can imagine the scenario, especially when conflicts happen. This is what the therapists normally call the anxious avoidant dance. The anxious wants intimacy, the avoidant wants to create that space. The anxious wants closeness, the avoidant wants to move away. The anxious would want to make plans together on a day off or on a weekend. The avoidant would probably want to do something independently by himself without his family or close intimate partners around. The anxious during the time of a conflict would express his needs, his desires and expectations, but the avoidant would want to move away, clam up, not express, because he finds it very difficult to deal with his own inner turbulent emotions. So he probably want to escape the situation without addressing the conflict head on. Now you must be worried that if you're an anxious or an avoidant, can you change your attachment style? The best part is yes, you can. With self-awareness, you can change your attachment style. Now, can anxious and avoidance work together to make the relationship better? Yes, I believe it can be done, provided both of them are willing to work on their own set of issues and move towards a secure space. For an anxious person, it's probably to give space to their intimate partner, to probably understand that person is an avoidant, so always would want to create that space, and that is the natural instinct. If it is an avoidant, the person needs to understand that the anxious partner wants more intimacy and more closeness. So the avoidant has to consciously take a few steps in that direction to get the anxious partner reassured and feel safe and comfortable in this partnership. When it comes to conflict, it is important that both of them understand the need for effectively communicating their expectations. So when you recognize that there is an inner underlying attachment style at play there, you can actually work on your emotional responses, your thoughts, and how you communicate. Slowly, over a period of time, things will improve if you're able to start with the first step, which is self-awareness and being honest to yourself. Wrapping up, I will leave you with this idea of a secure base. What is a secure base? Our partners from the secure base from which we operate in the world outside. If your secure base is not functioning smoothly, it's not nurturing, it's not loving, then over a period of time, your physical well-being and your emotional well-being gets upset. A secure base is a place where you feel loved, cherished, understood, respected. And it is important that you take care of this base of yours with your partner. But for that, you need to have one long, hard look at yourself first. See what course correction you need. See what change of mindsets you need to bring about. See what are the ugly truths within you that you need to face, and slowly make amends. I believe that if you take one step, your partner will take three, and things will slowly but surely change and improve. With that thought, I wrap up this video. Thanks so much for watching, and do remember to share this video if you like it with your friends and family. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who might find this video valuable, so do remember to share it. Do leave that thumbs up if you like the video, and also check out the other videos on my channel and do subscribe if you found those videos relevant. This is a book attached that I have referred to for the making of this video. Do read it and leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. I would really like to know what you think about this video. Thanks for watching. See you. Take care, and take care of your loved ones as well.